Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. I am your host, as always, Yona Weiss. Excited to be here today with a great guest. You may know him as one of the most prolific professional skateboarders out there from his documentary based on his life, One Way Ticket, and many other things he's doing in the world. He's also a real estate investor, which is, I'm excited to talk to him. We got Greg Lutzka on the show. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
Likewise, and I want to give a quick shout out to AJ Osborne, who made the amazing introduction a few month or two ago when we first got connected. And just I'm amazed how we always say the beginning of the show it's pre-recorded, so you didn't hear it right now, Greg, but it says your network is your net worth.
Net worth. I was just gonna say that. That is
Yeah,
so true. And AJ's such a good guy, man. I was on a call with him not too long ago, talking storage, and man, he's doing great things. Cedar Creek, Cedar Creek Capital is really doing it. So he's connected us, well, obviously with the podcast, which is really cool and really exciting to be a part of, but also doing cost segregation studies. So on some of my duplexes and the triplex that I'm purchasing right now. So a lot of exciting things. And yeah, big shout out to AJ for connecting us here. So
it's amazing how people in your life, we get connected with the right people, it can literally change the trajectory of your whole life. And even in small ways, but sometimes those small things have ripple effects that make differences, way into the future that you may not even know. So it's important to surround yourself. I always say this, surround yourself with great people and get that positive energy all the time, and you'll make major changes in your life.
absolutely. That is a great quote though. Your network is your net worth. So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Awesome. Great. I'd love for you to give a little background. I mean, I gave a very brief introduction that you were a
Yeah.
professional skateboarder. You won the gold medal in the X Games
Mhm.
twice, right? So
Yep.
you obviously have been doing this for a while. How did you
Yep.
get started? And, kind of give us a little bit about your journey, your background. And then what I'm really curious about is how did that lead you into real estate
Real
investing
estate.
or
Yeah.
business in general?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So like, yeah, I basically grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. As a young kid, I was playing ice hockey at age 2. So my legs were pretty strong, just like right out the womb. You know what I mean? So my parents got me into ice hockey. My dad's a big ice hockey fan. He actually got me a signed Wayne Gretzky plaque here, which is
Oh,
pretty
nice.
cool.
That's awesome.
Years ago. So yeah, so I grew up playing ice hockey, then I got into skateboarding. Some guys on my hockey team skateboarded. And I just fell in love with it. Like skateboarding is so different than kind of your traditional team sport where you have practice and you have um, game time and all that stuff. Skateboarding you can do it anywhere, anytime. I mean, I wouldn't say anywhere because as a kid growing up, we couldn't skate in the winter in the snow. So, but I would skate a lot in the basement. And then eventually we got a skate park called Four Seasons in my hometown that my mom helped get a $50,000 grant for to Neil Levin, who was the owner of the skate park. My mom works for the city. So that really like kind of boosted my skateboarding skills and having, me doing it more and more every single day. I was winning some of the local competitions in the Midwest, and, my passion was, to be a pro skateboarder. I
Mm.
really love skateboarding and, I looked up to guys like Andrew Reynolds and Tom Penny and wanted to be like them, Jeff Raleigh, Jamie Thomas, all these guys, Chad Muska, list goes on, So I was winning these contests, back in the Midwest, and I had the opportunity to go to the Tampa Am contest. And man, the talent there was just like on a whole nother level. You know what I mean? So I got pretty nervous during my run. I think my first year there, some of the people know the story, but yeah, I won one of the worst fall awards, which was pretty crazy. Like I went to go lip slide the handrail and basically ate it pretty good, So I went back like understanding like, man, there's some good talent out there in the world of skateboarding. I mean, these guys are coming from everywhere, Brazil, Europe, Australia, all around the US. So I went back and just skated the park pretty much every single day. I pretty much lived at the skate park, was there 24/7, a lot of hours in the skate park. And then went back to Tampa the next year, made it to the finals, met up with Al Partnan, who got me on Millennium skateboards. And from there, I started going to California, right? So I started
Mhm.
coming out here where I live now and getting hooked up with some of the guys like Chris Ortiz, who were shooting photos, Dave Swift with Transworld, 401 Video Magazine with Joe Krolik, Bill Weiss got me in digital. And then Rodney Mullen ended up finding me on getting me on a company called Almost Skateboards, and that really changed my life because I basically was in a movie in the skate film, which they had Rodney Mullen versus Day One round one, and then they had Rodney Mullen versus Day One round two, which that's what I looked up to like as a kid. And then I was in the actual round three video at age 17. So
Wow.
that was a huge opportunity. I mean, the second that came out overnight, everyone knew who my name was, just because I had a good part. I worked really hard at filming that part, and that came out, and I'm next to these superstars, like Rodney Mullen and Daewon Song, and then Ryan Sheckler was in it. So it was a really really life changing moment for me. And going back a few, like I'd say about a year and a half, 2 years before that, I was probably 16. I went to my first pro contest when I turned pro at 16 for Millennium skateboards. I went to Europe and I won my very first pro contest. It was the World Cup in Germany.
Wow.
So from there, I think I won like $50,000 or something like that. I don't know the exact amount, but it was something like that. So at that time, I was making more than some of my teachers, like
Yeah.
I don't know what a teacher makes, but 35, 40 grand, I think at the time. This is before inflation. So
Sure.
it was a lot of money. And I ended up leaving school and just following my passion. And they were filming this round three video. So I left high school, moved to California, basically on a one-way ticket, which we ended up calling the documentary years later, One-Way Ticket,
Wow.
to film round three. And that's really where it all began in Huntington Beach. That video came out and never looked back and just kept progressing from there.
That's amazing. I mean, to just I hear it in your voice, the passion, but I mean, this is a while back. You were a
Yeah.
kid, a teenager doing this, and
Yeah.
just to show you, the dedication that you
Yeah.
had to live your dream through. I mean,
Yeah.
most
And there was
most
ups and downs. Like it wasn't all just, the easiest thing. Like I think at the end of the video, I was trying to film my last trick at the Hollywood High 16. I went to go kickflip backflip the 16. And I was going back and forth from the 12 to the 16, and I ended up racking pretty bad, like missing my catch, and just, I ended up separating my collarbone. So, I had some bad injuries at the end of filming that video, and then it was crazy. Like, I was always a really, I guess you could say, pretty talented skateboarder. Probably for the simple fact I never really got hurt. So I never really thought like you could get hurt skateboarding. And that one really put me out for a while. I was out for like 6 to 8 months. And it
wow,
just put in perspective how the mental game, getting back into it after a gnarly injury like that is just crazy. Because before I never really got hurt. So mentally, I just thought I was invincible. I could do anything, jump down any, 16 stairs, 15, whatever, 13 stair handrail. I think in that video, I frontside flipped 17 stairs, which was pretty bananas. You know what I
it's
mean?
crazy. Yeah,
And then I got my first real injury, and I was like, it set me back a little bit. And then when got back into skating, and I was like recovering, my mental game was off. So it was like rebuilding that mental game. And then also, like, I was living in California. Two of my roommates, they had moved back because they're from Milwaukee. They moved out here with me. We lived in like a 1 bedroom apartment in Huntington Beach. We all lived on this floor. Like it was like crazy. They ended up moving back, and I got a little homesick. I moved out of that. I basically moved out of that apartment. I bought my first condo, and that's how I got into real estate. So I bought my first condo when I was 19 in Huntington Beach, which now, it became my first rental property, obviously, but it also like more than doubled in value. And we actually have it up for sale right now. And it's crazy how much it's gone up. And we're gonna do 1031 exchanges and put that into a bigger asset in the Midwest. To be honest with you, I like investing in the Midwest, just so you can get more bang for your buck. So that one we're gonna put into hopefully a apartment complex coming here
sure.
soon. I'll be calling you to do the cost sag on
There
that.
you go.
So but that was my very first rental property. I was winning a lot of contests at that time, the Do Tour, Tampa Pro. I got a really good agent behind me, Todd Hahn, who really brought in these pretty big deals, with Monster Energy Drink,
Wow.
Oakley, Toyota, K-Swiss, Jose Cuervo, Visa, like the list goes on, like the brands that he brought in to work with. So
So you were
yeah, I
probably
never.
making a lot of money more from the brands than the competitions themselves, right?
Yeah, and then he would just negotiate pretty cool things in there that I wouldn't have thought of, like contest matchings. That's huge, So like when I won the $160,000 at the Money Move Cup, like we had contest matchings from Monster Energy, or I think at the time it was Rockstar Energy I was on. So I did 6 years at Monster and then 6 years at Rockstar Energy. So I did 12 years in the energy drink business. And now I'm actually a part owner with Aqua Hydrate with Wahlberg, Mark Wahlberg, and
Oh,
these guys. So I eat a little healthier nowadays and drink water, not the energy drink. So my lifestyle's changed quite a bit over the years. But he would negotiate pretty cool things in those contracts, like the contest matchings. We'd get photo incentive for being in magazines back when print was like huge. I mean, Thrasher's
sure.
still around, but So he really kind of showed me, paved the way for me with business and skateboarding. And I would say around like 28, we just, he came to me one day and he goes, look, man, I brought pretty much every deal I could, like, we've worked with everybody. I don't really have many other sponsors to bring. And that's kind of when I went on my own and started doing my own deals. And I learned from him how to create my like pitch decks and how to reach out to brands and how to set up meetings, how to negotiate my deals. And I would negotiate all my own deals. So I did my Aqua Hydrate deal. I did my Harley Davidson deal, Kicker Audio. I have my skateboards now selling at Walmart next to Tony Hawk. I did that deal.
Nice.
I have a whole clothing line coming out at Walmart. So like it's just been expanding over the years of progression, just like with skateboarding on my skateboard, but like business wise off my skateboard, I would say. And I'm actually launching a master class, which is pretty cool. It's called Skateboarding Master Class on the school platform to
That's
teach
cool.
that next upcoming kid like how to basically be a pro skateboarder, how to negotiate your deals, how to build your pitch decks.
Wow.
I'll be going on there once a week live, just like this, like we're doing right here on Zoom, and I'll be Q&A, and so they'll be able to work with me, ask questions. A big passion of mine is helping out that next generation. So
Sure.
it's cool, man. And now I have a TV show too. So the Fuel TV show is called Next Gen. That's about bringing up the next generation of skateboarders. We got the master class that's launching, and then the skateboards are for kids. So that's on Walmart. And dude, my first skateboard was a Walmart board. It was a Nash, and it was plastic trucks, and just it just sucks. So my goal, and my goal was like when I turn pro, man, I'm gonna come out with a line of skateboards that sell in these big box retail stores for the next generation of kids that actually they're good boards, they come to a fingerboard, it comes to the QR code to learn how to skate,
Very
good
cool.
wheels, good bearings, good trucks, cool graphics, good wood. So that was like a big basically a big there we go. A big turning point for me was now being that pro skateboarder and winning all these contests, right? And like now, like switching it up and like, all right, cool. Like I'm at the point now in my career where I want to help out that next kid to
Sure.
get to that level to do what they love to do with skateboarding and make it a successful career.
Absolutely. I mean, are you still at this point competing in any way? I mean, in terms of what
Not
the
as much.
professional skateboarding
Yeah,
involves.
yeah. Not as much. I mean, I skate a lot, I enjoy skateboarding. I'll skate to the day I die, like my motive is definitely not to go out there and kill myself like, when I was younger and get hurt. Like I want to walk later on in life. I don't want my knees to be blown out, but I want to enjoy skateboarding. So like, I would say I skate smarter and less risky now. I still do crazy tricks and I got my trick selection that I enjoy to do. And I skate OC ramps a lot. I just skate with my friends a lot, to be honest with you. It's kind of like taking it back to the basics or back to like the beginning, I should say, where I just like enjoyed skateboarding. It wasn't a career. You have this crazy career that you did for, 20 years. Man, there's a lot of pressure on it, being through these steps of winning these contests, filming these video parts, going through injuries,
Yeah.
ups and downs with sponsorship. Like it's crazy. Like with sponsors, it's tough because you can have this amazing, deal with a company like, Monster Energy Drink or whoever, and come your contract come up, like they could not re-sign you. And next thing you know, you're making, over 100, 200, 300 grand a year to like, you could be like nothing, it just depends if, you want to keep your eggs separate, like eggs in different baskets, I should say. You don't want to put everything under one company or distribution who you're working
Sure.
with. But so I feel blessed, to be able to give back that opportunity and help out that next generation. And then it takes it back. Like for me, it's fun, like I love skateboarding. I don't have that pressure. As you mentioned, real estate, I got really into investing into real estate over the last, I would say 15, 20 years. Like my whole career, I invested into real estate. So
That's
I
amazing.
so I built like a really good empire in that. And I got a little story about that. Like I was young, and I was making a lot of money in skateboarding, and I was buying, Bentleys. I was buying a nice Bentley, and I was buying a big house, 6-bedroom house, and I was in Mission Viejo, but I wasn't investing that much back then, and
Sure.
that was a big problem, and my neighbor Ben actually asked me, he's looking at this house, how much you buy this for? And I told him the price, and he goes, dude, you could buy like seriously like 10 properties in Arizona, 10 condos, dude. I invest in these condos for what you bought this house for, dude. And you have all this passive income coming in. So he got me in at a younger age, like I would say like 22, around 22, I would say 23 maybe, starting to buy these condos, right? And every year we get two or three and they would just add up. And thank God, I did, because now looking back, I have passive income coming in from real estate and seeing how, like, basically how that's changing my life to be able to live comfortably off of the real estate side of things and not just the sponsorship side of things. So things have kind of like turned where I was, always focused on sponsorship, and that's how I'm going to make my living. Like, being a pro athlete, it's not going to last forever. Let's be
Sure.
honest. So, and then there was a point where I downsized. So I downsized, sold that house, and I downsized about 200 grand less to this property I'm in now, which is a beautiful home. Sold the Bentley, now I got a Porsche, but so I did down like whatever. But so I still have nice things, but like I made back a lot of my money that I kind of felt like I was blowing, like,
Right.
and then I reinvested that into more real estate. And my neighbor Chris over here across the street, he invests a lot into storage, right? So I started getting, so he got me into storage, investing there. And then I had an Airbnb out there in Palm Springs.
Nice.
Did
Yeah.
that for 2 years. We did great on the investment, right? So it went up 200 grand from when I bought it within 24 months, because it's just the right timing before the
Hmm.
pandemic. And and I learned a lot about the Airbnb business. We made money along the way, but it wasn't for me, because it was a lot to manage, I guess you could say. Like a
Right.
lot to manage. And I didn't have a management company on it. I was dealing with every single person that was staying there. And you have really
Sure.
good people that stay at those things, and then you can have some shit people. And dude, I was in an HOA, and honestly, like, we would get a lot of complaints from either people partying, or we had some guests that wouldn't even leave. Like, I had to get the cops there.
Oh
They
man,
they 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 basically almost became like, they're like, we're moving in here and good luck getting us out. Like, what do you
that's
call
horrible.
them?
Yeah, squatters. They just decided
Squatters. They
to. Yeah.
became squatters, and the cops couldn't do nothing. I'm getting fines from the community because they were getting so many complaints that it was just like, yo, like, we have to start fining you for this. HOAs were going up, property value went up. So I ended up selling it and doing a 1031. And I was looking back in Arizona because that's where I was used to buying. But after the COVID time, the prices just went crazy,
Skyrocket.
right?
Yeah, Arizona went crazy.
Skyrocketed. So I decided not to invest back in Arizona. And Chris, my neighbor, who I invested in with the storage facility, was like, dude, I invest into Michigan, in Lansing, Michigan. That's where some of my stuff is now. And basically, like, those properties over there haven't gone up too crazy.
Right.
You can still get duplexes over there for say like 200 grand. We're closing on a triplex right now for like 240. Where could you get a triplex for 240? Let's be
Right.
honest, especially in this day and age. So, I have a feeling that in time to come, that area is going to explode. And I think a lot of places in the Midwest are going up in value, more and more, but it's just a slower
Yeah.
growth rate. Out here in
Sure.
California, you could buy something 2 years later, it's going to be, what happened to me. It went up
Sure.
crazy, amount. But the Midwest is a little bit slower growth. But there, with your typical 20% down, let's be honest, dude, you're not going to be able to invest in real estate in Arizona, California, Texas, a lot of these states that have just skyrocketed, because what's going to happen is your expenses are going to be
Right.
more than what your profit is, right?
For sure. Yeah, we talk about that a lot. Not you don't have to invest in your backyard. You invest where it makes most sense. And for properties
Mhm.
like that, small multifamily, definitely Midwest takes the cake in terms of
Yeah.
places. Whether it's in Michigan or Indiana. I know a lot of people buying in
Ohio.
Kentucky, Ohio. Yeah, these places
Yeah.
are really
I'm
kind of
from
gold
Milwaukee,
mines.
so I'm surprised I haven't invested in my hometown, Milwaukee. But like I said, it was just right timing, meeting the right people.
Right.
What it goes back to saying, what is it? Your net worth, or your network is your net worth.
Exactly.
And at that time, Ben got me into Arizona. And then when I moved here, I met Chris, and he's big into real estate. He got me into Michigan, and then thinking outside the box, like, okay, cool, let's get into storage here. And so I worked my way into that and seen how successful that has been. So yeah, real estate is huge. And then I had no idea about protecting your assets, right? That's a
Hmm.
whole nother thing. All these properties at one time were under my personal name. So then I learned, okay, cool, we got to put these into, number one, I put them into land trust, so it hides my name off public record. Then we put them into LLCs. Then it's held by a Wyoming holding company, right?
Right.
And then the holding company is owned by the living trust, right? So through that, just the school of life, I call it, even though I didn't graduate high school, man, I learned so much of creating my own S Corp and business, and how that works with, you paying the company's paying the S Corp, you having the tax write-offs with
Right.
your expenses and your travel and your food, and then paying myself and employees I would have. Like, at one point I was paying my dad. to manage like the back end and do all the finance stuff. So, through skateboarding, it just brought me into like this whole other opportunity of learning business and then investing and traveling the world too, of like culture. And like skateboarding has been just like a huge blessing of mine that, I'm thankful now that I moved to California and took that risk of that, taking that one way ticket,
Yeah.
to like not look back.
It's amazing. What's
Yeah.
fascinating to me is you have so many professional athletes, and we've had quite a few on the show actually, in different spaces. We mentioned to each other earlier that Mikey Taylor was the only other skateboarder, actually the only other
Yeah.
skateboarder that I know, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but he was on the
That's a good
show.
one to know, by the way.
Yeah, he's a good guy. But he also
Yeah.
was amazing that he kind of early on was investing in
Yeah.
different businesses, and he owned a brewery, for a short time, and then got into real estate as well. And now he has his own private equity, real estate company, which
Yeah.
which is incredible. But the point I'm trying to make here is that too many people, especially professional athletes, who are making relatively much higher income than the average,
Yeah.
and are usually not taught, financial literacy, and end
No.
up a
I mean,
lot of
but in
them.
school, they don't teach you that either. I mean, even if
True,
you're going to college, if it's not a business school, it's crazy. Like that's what I think like schooling should have. Like you're in 10th, 11th, 12th grade, you should be learning the fundamentals of how to be able to create your own business, how to pay your taxes, how to do accounting. They have these things in there, like these classes in there, like, that aren't relevant to what it's like when you get in the real world.
right,
And I seen that at a young age, knowing that, hey, look, like I went overseas to Germany, to over in Europe and going to the Great Wall or the Berlin Wall, right? And then coming back and the teacher's talking about the Berlin Wall in the book, and he's like, not even, I don't want to say he wasn't on point with something, but he's just reading what it's about. I actually came back from there with a piece of the Berlin Wall. Would learn all about it there, and I asked him, hey, have you been there before? Some of these teachers, they're teaching something that they've never even been to. Some of these places, they're teaching something that they have not experienced it themselves, is what I'm
right,
trying to say. And that's kind of why I raised my hand and said, you know what? I'm out of this class, man. And no disrespect, but like back then, a lot of these teachers were doubting me. Like, from the Midwest, like it's not as believable to be a pro skateboarder. I get it if you're in Southern California, like I'm going to be a pro surfer or
right.
skateboard, and the teacher's looking down, and you're in Huntington Beach, and like, well, there's a ton of pro surfers out there. Kelly Slater, yeah, I think that's believable. Volcom's down the street, right? So, but back there, it's like a foreign language, like skateboard. What? Like,
Right.
so when I left to California and wanted to be around more like-minded people that were in skateboarding and the industry was here, a few years later, like they seen me on TV and on the X Games and winning these big events on ESPN and NBC with Dew Tour. They're writing me emails. Oh, wow, you made it, man. And that's something that I really stress is like to people. It's not skateboarding is just my story. It's just my passion, right? But in life, you need to figure out like what you enjoy to do, what you love to do. And if you can go out there and make it a point to figure out a way to make that a living, right? Because it ain't about money, it's not about fame. It's more about enjoying life. Life is short, right? And being happy every day. You can figure out what makes you happy and turn that into something that you can go out and make a living doing. You hit the gold pot. You hit the
That's right.
jackpot. You know what I mean? Like, so
Right
I think
on.
skateboarding was just like that was like where I wanted to go, and then from there, just like anything in life, it turned into this crazy journey of business investments. And, even like now I have like an online shop like Lutzka's Garage, which we sell motorcycle parts and getting into the
Wow,
motorcycle industry because it became riding. I got sponsored by Harley, but riding bikes was a passion of mine. So like
that's so cool.
I focus a lot on just the things that I love to do and then just work in those industries, and then I'm happy doing that. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Because it's not like a burden to me. It's like, okay, cool. I enjoy real estate. I enjoy even doing this cool stuff like public speakings like this, and podcast is cool. Next week I'm going to the Aspire tour and doing some public speakings out there, and like I'm really excited about that, and just inspiring others too, and just kind of telling my story of, hey, look, if you got a passion
Hmm.
and you just have that like that motivation that you ain't gonna give up, and you're gonna fall down, but you got to get back up, and you just got to have that drive. You can make it happen and be successful in life.
For sure.
And
That's awesome.
no matter what you put your mind to.
100%. And are you running all these different businesses yourself, or do you have a team that's working with you? It sounds like, from the skateboard
Yeah.
line to the clothing line to the, you said, the
All
online
that,
shop,
I'll
all
be
that
honest
stuff.
with you, I've done all those deals myself. I didn't have an agent, and I'm going to teach how to do those deals like in the master class. And then I work with my partners and we create the lines. And then, I go in for the sales meetings. I go in, I'm more on the creative side of things, getting the graphics made up, working with designers, showing my passion, marketing, all that kind of stuff. How are we going to promote it on the TV show, through social media, through the email blasts, all that kind of stuff. For the real estate side of things, I have a management group now. My dad was helping manage, and he still does the ones in Arizona because those ones are kind of set in stone and they're working good. We have good renters in there. But for Michigan, like everything we're doing there is like, yeah, no, I got a management group on board there where, they do an excellent job, and then I oversee what they do. And that way the renters aren't working with me directly, right?
Right.
So I worked with the renters, with the Airbnb thing direct. So like I had my hands in it like for 2 years, like consistency, like every single day working with them. And it was cool. And I met good people along the way. Don't get me wrong, but I did have some bad apples in the bunch that were like, that just kind of like set me off where I was like, man, I just can't deal with these people, especially the squatters. Like it was just
Yeah.
like they trashed the whole house. I was like, you know what, this Airbnb thing, it was just I need to put my focus into other things in my life. It's taking up a lot of my time and draining my energy, right? So the energy is everything. You got to keep your energy high and good and in a positive mindset. When you got crap like that happening, it just like it stresses you out. And next thing you know, I got to drive 3 hours to Palm Springs, where it's like to deal with. I've never met these people before,
Right.
and trying to get someone to go out there with me like a bodyguard or something that's gonna help me get them out. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna be able to pull these people out of the house. You know what I mean? The cops aren't doing anything. So I think like how I did it and restructured that into the duplex, the triplex, and now I'm going into like apartment complex,
Right.
having the management group overlook those renters. And we had a renter, I think, that didn't pay for a minute there. I didn't even deal with it. I didn't even really hear about it because they basically just sent me a quick email. Hey, we're evicting this person. We got him out. We did a little rehab. Boom. We got a new renter in there, and we're all good. And they pay the management company, right? And
Hmm.
then we got a portal and all the money goes to at the end of the month. That's always a good feeling, right? When you
Sure.
at the end of the month you see like the money coming from the manager coming into your bank account, you're like, yeah, real estate's a good investment,
That's a good
so
passive investment for sure, especially when you have
it can be.
other people dealing. It can be exactly right. There are
It can
definitely
be.
assets.
It could not be too if you're investing in the wrong markets, or if you're buying these properties at a high price and you're not running your numbers and you're not putting in the equation of, hey, there's property tax here. There's some, what your mortgage is, what your insurance is, you know what I'm saying? What
Yeah.
your 10% to the management company is. So if you're not running your numbers and you're buying at a high, man, you could be losing money every month. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Like,
so true.
so if you're not paying attention to it, it could actually drain you. So you want to know what you're doing, kind of getting into it, or at least work with someone that is in it to be able to help explain and run some numbers for you as well. And Chris does a fantastic job, my neighbor, Chris Kirkwood, I think his last name, Kirkland. Kirkland. Do you know Chris?
I don't
He's
think
like
so.
he's friends with AJ and all those guys in the store. He's more in the storage side of things, but he was in multifamily. He got me into multifamily. Now he's like more storage, but he runs his numbers great. So if I have questions, I go over to him. Hey, dude, like, can you run some numbers for me? So
That's cool.
yeah, having a buddy like that, like as you get older, you got to have a guy that can help run some numbers. You got to have a plumber. You got to have like manager. You know what I mean? Like that's the
Have your
network right
team.
there.
Absolutely. You gotta have your team. That's awesome. Um, Greg, I want to transition now to what we call the final four. Time flies by over here, but we got four
Yeah.
questions I'd like to ask all my guests. And the first one for you is, what's the worst job that you ever had?
Oh man, I would say like my first job was, well, I only had really one job in my life, and it was because skateboarding wasn't a job. I did that with my, the love and the heart for skateboarding, turned it into a career. But my first job was I was a paper boy, and that lasted 2 weeks. And man, I think I was like 13 years old. I had this heavy bag. I think the second week I did it with a wagon. And I think the third week I never even delivered the papers, man. I think I threw them in the recycling bin, and then it wasn't like a huge paper company, you know what I mean? Like the Milwaukee Journal or something like that. It was a smaller company. It was kind of like the throwaway ones. Everyone gets one. So I'm like, man, how many people really read these things? You know what I mean? So but they do. I mean, people complained they didn't get their paper and they fired me. And I knew it wasn't. I knew that kind of job wasn't for me, and I knew a 9 to 5 job wasn't for me. So that's my one and only job. And looking back, like I just that pushed me to get further into skateboarding, push myself to want to, be a professional skateboarder. Cause I was like, I'm not delivering papers. I'm not working this 9 to 5 thing. Like I'm not going to college, I'm going a whole different lane than what everyone else is
Totally.
doing in society. You know what I mean?
Totally. Was that, I'm curious, you said like when you were younger, starting out, you were winning a bunch of competitions kind of locally
Yeah.
in the Midwest area. Do you remember looking back, like how old were you, or what was that first prize money uh, that
Yeah.
you did?
Yeah, I would say back then the local contest in the Midwest there wasn't really much money. You know what I'm saying? So there wasn't really much money. I think even Tampa Am there's no money. As an amateur,
Really?
you're not really getting paid. So like I think when I won my first pro contest, that was the European one.
Oh wow.
That was
Okay.
yeah. So like
That's
in
huge.
back then, I think when I won my first like amateur contest in the Midwest, it's probably like 14 years old, something like that.
Very
And I
cool.
turned pro around I think it was like 16, 17. So I think I won my first pro contest like, 4 years later, I would say.
That's cool. No, because I'm just
Yeah.
curious, when
Yeah.
you're young and you have like a job, you're like, I'm not doing this. And then when you
Yeah.
actually win or
Yeah.
get a
You
prize
know what?
money,
Now that I think about it, I think as an amateur skateboarder, I was getting paid a little bit of money from Beer City Skateboards
okay.
because I was with a local company at a local skate shop, Phase 2 skateboards. I was getting some shoes flowed to me. So I had like a lot of flow deals, but then I think I was making like maybe $500 a month. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like,
That's
so
cool.
I was
As a kid,
making.
that's amazing.
Yeah, I think my first thing that I bought with my first paycheck, because I always wanted like a trampoline, one of those big, huge trampolines in my backyard when I was like 13 or something. So I bought a trampoline for the backyard. I remember that being like the first thing I bought with my first paycheck from skateboarding.
There you go.
But yeah, no, I didn't really start making real money until like, winning that big pro contest, turning pro, getting board royalties from my boards, getting sponsored by Elenium, now getting paid monthly, getting on Globe shoes and like that whole transition. Like there was a big stepping point from amateur skateboarder to like, okay, now he's pro and winning contests and traveling the world doing what I loved was like a huge, you know what I mean? It
It's
was
a huge, yeah,
it was
huge
like night and
transition.
day, man. It was like, all right, there's no looking back now.
Very cool. Second question for you is what is a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
Well, I would say The Secret is a really good book. It's about the law of attraction. For those that don't know out there, it's a powerful book. Dr. George Pratt, he has some great books too. He's one of the guys that I went and got hypnotized from in San Diego. Rob Dyrdek actually went to him as well.
Oh
And this
wow.
guy had changed my life, man. Like when I was losing certain sponsors, I was getting into like a negative mindset of like
Hmm.
losing sponsors and like thinking my skate career was over and all this stuff. And he totally flipped the script on me and hypnotized me to like, no, dude, you were born to be successful. You made it through this like challenge through being a pro skateboarder. You got so much more to go. And now, like, obviously, I've, from 28 to now I'm 39, like 10 years, basically, a lot has evolved and changed. And he was right, and it comes down to self belief a lot, law of attraction,
Yeah.
manifestation, like all these kind of techniques I use them in the sauna. I got a sauna at my house. I go in there, I like sweat out all the old toxins and like, and I bring in like good positive energy and kind of like manifest exactly what I want to do next in my life and make it a reality and write it down. But yeah, the secret, and there's a movie with the secret too that's really cool, that you could just like listen at night before you go to bed, and it'll get you in like this like entrepreneur mindset or like good positive energy. And I use a lot of those tools every day in my life, and they've really changed my outcome and perspective and everything. So
That's
it's
awesome.
cool to be able to share that.
For sure. We'll make sure to put that in show notes if anyone wants to check out The Secret for sure. And then
Yeah.
what's a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
Right now I'm in the point of wanting to like basically write my own book, right? And I'm talking to like a ghost writer that goes out and they write, and she's written a ton of good books. Like, but I think I want to like write my own book and in my own words. And nowadays with like, I could write it up. I'm not the best writer by any means, but I think I could like copy and paste, throw it through AI, and it will help do the grammar check and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. So, and then sending it over to her to kind of like, okay, cool, read through this and maybe we finalize a few little things instead of having me tell the story to her and then her write the book.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying, for me, and it's kind of like a ghostwriter, which a
Right.
lot of people do that. I think one of the challenges is, or one of the things that I would like to learn how to do, and it is a little bit of a challenge, But and I think I'm just gonna go after it, right? That's how you do
Sure.
things in life. You just go after it. So is writing my own book and writing the key points that I want to talk about in the book, the exact chapters, the beginning, the middle, the end, like, so I think it's gonna be a fun project for me. And then kind of giving it to someone that has written books that kind of like go through it and kind of structure it a little bit, tighten it up, I would say.
Sure.
But for the most part, I want to be able to write my own book. And
That's cool.
that's a skill set that we're gonna get into that, open up a whole nother can of worms, I should say.
That's pretty
So
cool. You
hopefully
have
I
an
don't get
idea
too
of,
over my head here because I've never written a book before, but I think I'm gonna make it more of a passion, fun project to do.
I mean, do you have an idea of what it's going to be about? Would it be an autobiography or would it be just a book on, kind of your something
Well,
you're passionate about?
the movie the movie actually comes out next month too on Apple TV, and we're talking to Amazon right now, but it's called One Way Ticket. So this is more about my life, and
Hmm.
this is a really cool film. It won awards at the Newport Beach Film Festival. We sold out the movie theater. It's been in the Milwaukee Film Festival. We sold out the theater there. This is more like on my life. I think the book we probably want it to be more like entrepreneur type stuff and the tools I use to become how I became successful. And like this is kind of more, you watch this, you're gonna learn about my life and the storyline. Where I
Hmm.
think the book, I want to make it more like the business side of things, and like I don't want to say like 12 steps of success or something like that, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
those steps that you take within your career, but relating it back to skateboarding and then tying in the business aspect, tying in the investment aspect,
Yeah.
tying in asset, like the protection of, how important it is to protect the assets once you get those things.
For sure.
Um, so it'll be a tie between a little bit of the storyline, some cool photography of skateboarding and behind the scenes of some of the stuff I do, but also like tying in like business aspect and how to achieve those goals. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like that you want to go get manifestation, all those kind of things. So it'd be a structure of it all a little bit.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with that. Sounds like a fun and exciting project ahead of you.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we're always working on projects and having fun. By the way, I'm doing Mikey's podcast coming up here soon, so that's gonna be a fun one to do and talk a little bit more about real estate. And he's a great guy, man. He's really built an empire, and I think a lot of young skaters are looking up to him as well because you can't skate forever, right? And
Yep.
to start investing at a younger age, you're just gonna be more ahead later on in life than going out and blowing your money and buying Bentleys. So don't
Well,
do that.
you learn your lessons, hopefully.
Yeah. So
Hopefully
yeah.
you'll learn. Well, fourth and final question is what does success mean to you?
Man, success is everything to me because like, I'm one of those people that like I want to build out goals I have and then I just want to go out there and achieve them. And it feels like I'm never like stopping, like I'm always trying to build like new projects, new goals, to create more and more success within myself. It isn't really about making more money or being like more known or anything like that. I think it's just more self like awareness of success of it
Mm,
makes me feel good to execute some of these projects I'm working on, whether it's, the documentary we worked on, the skateboards going into Walmart, the clothing going into Walmart, the TV show, the book, or whatever it is, success is like, it makes me feel accomplished in life. It gives
yeah.
me something to like want to live for. So I guess that's why I always just kind of keep coming up with these like projects that I want to do just because it just gives me something to uh, feel good about myself doing and just like self accomplishment is just like really good feeling. So I kind of do like a lot of this stuff all for myself and just myself like happiness and just to like check it off like on the box. Like, all right, cool. I got my boards in Walmart. That was always a dream of mine. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. That's
cool. I've
awesome.
always wanted a TV show. Boom, I got that. Like, okay, cool. I always wanted an Airbnb. I got that. You know what I mean? So for me, like setting those goals and creating success is everything. It brings me true happiness and it gives me something to live for every day and be able to tell cool stories like this to inspire other people. You know what I mean?
100%. Absolutely. Well, this has been awesome. I've learned a tremendous amount. I'm sure this was a lot of value for our listeners. I appreciate you coming on the show, Greg.
Thank you.
What's the best way our listeners can find you or reach out to you if they want to?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Instagram, on all the social media platforms, Facebook and book and all that stuff. You can contact me on my website if you want to get a hold of me direct. So yeah, feel free to reach out, follow me. I'll end up following you back and excited to be a part of this podcast, man. This is really cool and looking forward to working with you as well on the cost segregation studies with these properties and these investments and learning more about the real estate world every single day. You know, it's a beautiful thing. So being part of something like this is cool. And you're going to be able to teach me something about the cost seg, and that having those write-offs is very important. And you know, paying less in taxes, I should say.
Sure.
I was gonna say not paying nothing in tax. We all don't want to pay taxes because it's just, you know, but paying less in taxes and having those write-offs, I think, is a very powerful, cool thing to be able to do with doing cost segregation studies, and accelerated depreciation
For
basically is
sure.
what it is. So understanding that more is a really cool and powerful tool to use in the real estate world.
100%. Awesome. Yeah. And it's an amazing community. I mean, the real estate community, I've found so many incredible people through this journey of real estate investing. So grateful
Yeah,
to have you on the show. And I really just appreciate you spending the time today, and I look forward to
yeah,
chatting again soon.
absolutely. Thank you so much, and then we'll see you guys.
All right.
Peace.
And to our listeners, thank you guys for joining all the way to the end once again. And remember, until next time, the best advice comes only when you ask.